I've brought in bands that have charged $200, and I've bought in one band that asked for $40,000. So it just depends on how big your act is. If you're working in sort of this club scene where you're dealing with a club that seats anywhere from 300 to 600 people, typically your acts are going to cost you anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000. And basically, if I was telling somebody how to budget for a show, I would say you take your talent fee and you double it. And you take that number and you divide it by a ticket price, and if you honestly think you can hit that number without breaking your back and realizing that if you don't hit that number, you're going to lose money. If you think you can do it, then you do it. And so that's kind of the way I look at it. And like I said, that goes back to that whole thing of charging too much or charging too little, but that's kind of the way I view things. The way it's supposed to work is typically a promoter is supposed to be able to make 15% of sort of the final take and after expenses. So, and that gets very, very complicated to explain, but basically if you were to take a show and let's say you made $1,000 in ticket sales and your expenses were $500, you have $500 left over. Basically, you do what's called an 85-15 split with the bands, and you take 15% of that leftover $500 and the rest goes to the bands. When you're dealing with some of these smaller shows, it sort of doesn't always work out that way. There's usually a way that you can end up making money if you've negotiated a decent enough split point with the booking agent. But it's kind of similar to the movie business where the movie business does it a similar way. They take a percentage of the box office, and the music business is set up to do basically the same thing, where if you lose your butt, they're still going to get paid, and if you do great, they're going to get most of the money anyway. So that's how it's supposed to work. But once again, it's all in your negotiations. You can negotiate with a band to not have that percentage and do what's called a flat guarantee. And if you can do that, and if you can keep it low enough, that's where a promoter can make money. For instance, if you think you've got a hot band for whatever reason, and you can get a flat guarantee of like $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, and if you think you're going to get enough people to cover it and then some, that's where you're going to make your money. Because at that point, once you've gotten that band paid, all the rest of the take is yours. So in order to make money, you have to negotiate yourself a good deal. And if you allow yourself to be in a position where the booking agent dictates the price, you will never make any money. But if you get into a position where you realize that booking agent needs you just as much as you need them, then you got a better shot at making money. If you're looking at it from a business standpoint, you're only going to bring in bands that you know are going to do well. And so probably a lot of the bands that I do, you're not going to bid for them. Because you know that at minimum, if you get 300 people to show up at $20 a ticket and your expenses ran $5,000, for months and months of work, you're getting at $1,000. Well, for the big guys that have been doing it a whole lot longer than I have and a whole lot more successfully than I have, they're going to just go, well, forget that. But I look at it as, see, I'm different because I look at it from a fan's perspective, and I say, well, okay, this person, or this band I should say, hasn't been here in X number of years, that their latest album was just incredible, and so I kind of make my decision based on what I hope that the fans are going to want to see. And then also you have to base it too on what the talent fees are. And you have to realistically say, well, okay, the venue that I'm going to put them in seats X number of people. And a good rule of thumb is you figure that if you can do half the house, you should do a little bit better than break even. My rule of thumb is I try and book a band that I know if I draw 150 people, I'm going to be okay, because that's kind of my standard. That's what I usually can pull. So I kind of look at it based on that. If I can get anywhere from 150 to 200 people at X dollars and I'll come out of it okay, and I think that the band has a decent enough following and people will be excited to see it, I'll swing at it. And there are some that I won't. Every once in a while you'll get a band that you get real excited about and they'll toss a price at you that you know there's no way you can make it back. And then you have to just be realistic and you have to figure, okay, well, I'm going to pass on it, but I can drive to Chicago and see them.